Hello, and welcome to Replay Value. So I uploaded the summer replay roster and got tons of comments recommending other shows that weren't on that list. And I decided that I would try all of the ones that were suggested at least through the first episode. And while I had some instant drops, goodbye Backstreet Girls, I also wound up watching some shows that I otherwise wouldn't have, including today's topic, Starlight. I went into this 100% blind. I didn't even look at the premise or the staff. So while I was enjoying the music and the general atmosphere, it wasn't until the second act of the show that I got invested. And that's not to say that it wasn't well constructed up to that point, it's just that it didn't seem like my kind of show until a certain moment happened. If you haven't watched the first episode yet, go watch that and come back, because I'm about to spoil it, and I think you'll appreciate this discussion a bit more if you've seen, or maybe more importantly, listened to the show itself first. Spoilers in 3, 2, 1. I'm referring to the Tokyo Tower scene a little before the halfway point in the show. I'm sure plenty of people would assume I was referring to the final segment, which is fantastic in its own right, beautifully composed and visually striking. But I don't think that scene would work nearly as well without Tokyo Tower coming first, because it would be such a massive whiplash that would make it feel like a complete genre change, as opposed to a sharp change in scale and tone that had been hinted at earlier, still feeling a bit fantastical and a bit of a head scratcher. So Tokyo Tower not only sets up the ending of the first episode, but it also shows how powerful sound design can be when constructing a sequence and how creating contrast with the determined normal is so effective. But before we talk about all of that, we need to establish what Starlight does in the first 9 minutes to make that 10th minute so great. Despite an intro that in hindsight appears to be soaked in meaning, it initially comes off as a quick primer to the show itself, and moves right along to introduce 8 of the characters. A group of girls who attend the same high school which specializes in the theater, both production and performance, with the class we follow being the latter. Everything here is pretty lighthearted, from the character interactions to the warm colors used in their hair and the backgrounds. It comes off as another high school show with a specific niche, but with theater as the focus instead of band competition in something like Euphonium. There's solid direction here, like Karen looking at the stage center marking off to the side to reaffirm her goal of being the top without stating that explicitly, and then Maya taking that position later to tell us who number 1 is. And any show that uses a trivial discussion as a voiceover to provide characterization not only to the speakers, but to visually inform us about other characters has some sense of style that I can get behind. But what really sells the opening for me is how sound is used. It's about as fanciful and light as it could possibly be. The walk to school is accompanied by dozens of flutes and other woodwinds playing around with dozens of trills, a simple piano melody to keep time on the softer side, a marimba gets incorporated when the violins become the focus during the introductions, with a constant stream of new tunes joining the fray such that by the time that Futaba is getting her introduction, the sound has become almost muddled, with so many voices speaking at once almost fighting the music, until Maya says good morning and suddenly only a lone violin note remains.
出席番号18番天童マヤ入ります
The piano melody continues from there, adding the violins back and growing as the characters join her. And that's more or less the trend for the entire first act. Really bright, cheery music accompanied by location-specific sounds, and then stopping that light OST for a standout moment before quickly adding it back. So after we've been lulled into this pattern, then comes the Tokyo Tower scene. The sound of the rolling bag blurs into the gear turning, which is joined by a piano melody. As more and more gears and other mechanical sounds join, we also get more instruments like violins and additional pianos to create this sweeping melody, the same leitmotifs as Maya's walk, which is visually accompanied by this move through curtains and through the sky before the OST stops, a callback to the signaling of a standout moment from before. Wind blows through and single piano notes are held to join Karen's dialogue. This minimalistic decision, a change from the nothingness before, is reminiscent to Breath of the Wild's use of motifs in the Temple of Time song. It calls back to the music we were just hearing, but is a distinct enough change that it helps to slow down the sequence. But the moment where things really come together is after Karen is pushed from the tower. There's a brief build-up in expectation before a ringing brings us back to silence. And that silence feels like it lasts forever because we've been left in suspense. There's been no resolution to the song. Karen's fall is matched by this electronically sustained piano note that plays for an uncomfortable amount of time, adding a disconnect between this scene and the show that we've watched up to this point. This mechanical change even increases in volume and shrills. Karen's fall then speeds up, and the sound of her fall is heard in the close-up just as the music joins back in. It's the same as before, piano, violin, woodwinds. But now it begins with more of a minor tonality to it than the predominantly major tone from earlier. The rush of air comes to an end as the song finishes, and there's a synth element that plays in the highest register of the piece, which along with the traditional elements fades out to welcome the cell phone's ringtone, which in return brings us back to reality. What this scene accomplishes, beyond introducing the more fantastical elements of the show, is how sonically it's so distinct from everything that came before, using new instrumentation like electronic elements and the use of complete silence compared to dialogue or scenery. This makes it a new kind of standout moment compared to the two that we'd previously seen, and introduces a new motif for the show to work with. But that scene becomes a lot more interesting after you've seen the final sequence. As the elevator descends and the song begins, it's more of what we're used to. Violins, piano, though there's some actual percussion here in the form of a drum beat that's paced almost like a military march. There's also an oboe or some similar instrument in there, which doesn't come into the forefront until Hoshimi begins her solo, playing the harmony to her melody. The first part of the song, up until Hikari gets pinned, is more of what you'd expect. It's a bit more fleshed out with the percussion and more harmonic than the rest of the music from this point, but from an instrumentation and style level, it's just as you'd expect. Also, this moment is beautiful from a visual color perspective. Just look at the color contrast of Hikari in red and Hoshimi in blue, despite those being the opposites for their cloaks. But when Karen jumps in the fray, which is a visual callback to the Tokyo Tower scene, with the small change of her choosing to fall down and facing the ground here, whereas she was pushed and facing up in the previous outcome, indicating this new pursuit and her new focus, her jump is followed by, well, just listen for a second. There's a choir, an electric keyboard, percussion front and center, an electric guitar, and of course all the mechanical noises. It's borrowing motifs from the Tokyo Tower scene, but going 100% towards a total sonic makeover. And that continues into Karen's battle, which now introduces an acoustic guitar and bass in addition to the electric keyboard, percussion, and now singer. There's the nice inverse of the previous scene where Karen was held by Hoshimi, and the songs use the opportunity of the lights and curtain being drawn to transition to victory music, which goes back to the electric guitar as its focal point, in addition to the standard instrumentation types from earlier. I particularly love how the ping of the badge going flying is sustained through, as a natural transition to the chimes for the falling of the cloak. What Karen does to the sonic profile of the sequence is highlighted earlier with Tokyo Tower, but adds a ton of interesting depth to our listening experience of what would seem to be a traditional theater play, where she's adding these non-traditional elements and making it her own. These mechanical and electronic elements make it seem like she's doing something irregular, or that she's bringing herself into the work in such a way that the music can't help but change to match her. Whether that's good or bad, well, we've got a bunch more episodes to find out. Good sound design helps to make a scene function, but great sound design elevates a work beyond its visual trappings to achieve something entirely on its own, either in concert with the visuals or themes, or in stark contrast. Starlight showed great usage of both in this episode, and I hope as we proceed forward that the sound design continues to build on the sonic profile it featured here. Whether it's to highlight Karen's character, build up to a powerful moment, or subvert our expectations, Starlight's sound design is a critical element in what makes this first episode work so well. Hope you enjoyed. Leave a like and comment with your thoughts, subscribe for more videos, and follow me on Twitter for my live analyses and future projects. Link in the description. We'll be back real soon with another video, but until then, thanks for watching.